Hello and welcome back to the Google Workspace Update podcast from Strawberry 7. My name is Adam.
And my name is Adam.
We're here every week to bring you the latest updates happening in the world of Google Workspace. This podcast is available from wherever you cast your pods in audio format and also in video format on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Strawberry7.
Coming up on the show today,
we have 6 updates for you today. So we've got updates to Google Sheets, Google Drive, Admin, Google Chat, Google Meet, and Google Workspace. So nice sort of even spread this week, which is very nice to see. As always, there is a link in the podcast or video description to the document that we read from. This contains some more detailed information, some relevant links, and lovely pictures, and even some moving graphics showing you these features in action. So let's get to it.
on with the show. Right, so first up, this week we have an update to Google Sheets. So you can now add ratings using a new smart chip within Google Sheets. So Google is introducing a new smart chip in Google Sheets that allows you to add ratings to spreadsheet cells using the @ menu, or you can go to Insert, Smart Chips, then Rating. Simply select a number of stars from 0 to 5 to indicate a preference towards an option, such as a feature request, vendor, or interview question.
Oh wow, what a cool little feature. So we've talked a lot about smart chips. For anybody not familiar with them, it's a bit of a Google thing where you can do the symbol and it will bring up the smart chips that you can put in. There's a whole variety of them. You can use them in Google Sheets, Google Docs, Google Slides. And the smart chips, we really like them. There's a lot of variety in there. This rating system is really cool. We've seen some around emojis and things like that we've kind of debated the relevance of, Adam. But this rating system, I think, is very nice. And I can definitely see why Google have put this on Google Sheets first, because it's like that sort of thing where you might have that list in your cells and you want to kind of attribute a rating to that very directly. I can understand why they've done that.
Yeah, absolutely. This reminded me of, I forget the exact name for the type of questionnaire where you ask somebody to fill in their answer from, say, from strongly disagree, but neutral, agree, strongly agree. So you could use that kind of system if you're just putting out some questions to your staff or your colleagues or whatever, or what do you think about these various things, and give it a star rating for what you feel about it. So I think this is a simple but powerful update. I really like this one.
Yeah, I agree with you. And it's actually last week, if you remember, we talked about we talked about the emojis that you could put into comments on Google Sheets. And I said how, even though it's an emoji thing, which we normally think is a bit superfluous, using like thumbs up and things like that could be quite relevant. But you're right, Adam, this is a lot more targeted in the sense of it's a star rating. So you're not going to have somebody just suddenly put a pumpkin emoji in there or something and you think, what on earth does that mean? It's very much directly a star rating. So this is cool. I really like this. I think the examples that Google have given here about feature requests and vendors and things like that is relevant and a good example of how you could use this. So this is really nice. When are people going to see this, Adam, and who's it going to be available for, please?
Okay, so rolling out to rapid release right now, but scheduled release is planned for October the 30th, so not too long to wait, and this is going to be available to all Google Workspace customers, as well as users with a personal Google account. I've also added a lovely link into our document if anybody would like to learn more about inserting smart chips in your Google Sheets.
Lovely. Thank you so much, Adam. What have we got next, please?
Up next, we have Google Drive update. So, upcoming changes to third-party cookie requirements in Google Drive. So, Google Chrome and other browsers have begun phasing out third-party cookies in order to better protect user privacy. Starting on January the 2nd, 2024, so very beginning of next year, Drive will start serving downloads without requiring third-party cookies that are embedded on third-party websites. This is separate from downloading files in Google Drive. If you have specific workflows in place that rely on Drive's download URLs or use an app which relies on Drive's download URLs, you'll need to switch to the Drive and Docs publishing flow by January the 2nd, 2024. Serving downloads without requiring third-party cookies will work to improve usability, security, and privacy for Drive users. You can learn more about how to audit your code to look for third-party cookies and what action you can take to ensure that you're set for third-party cookies by following a lovely link that I've added in our document.
Thanks, Adam. I think I can see a few links embedded in this update, and I think for anybody that's interested in this or thinks that this will affect them, I definitely encourage them to have a look at these links. I do understand the principle of what they're saying in this update, but I think this is more in the realms of developers here, especially seeing as I can see that the Getting Started says end users and developers. So I think this is more of a developer thing, but I can understand the principle of what they're saying here about their getting rid of these requirements of third-party cookies, and I do understand how that is going to improve security, because if it's all within Google's sphere, they know exactly what those cookies are doing and asking for and everything like that. So it's interesting that Google used third-party cookies in the first place, because it says there Drive will start serving downloads without requiring third-party cookies that are embedded on third-party websites. So I'm trying to get my head around this, of whether Google is saying that Google Drive itself was using third-party cookies, or whether it required, if you had a Drive file that was embedded on a third-party website, whether you had to use those third-party cookies, and they've kind of done away with that.
Yeah, could an example of that be, for example, somebody has put a Google Drive file on their website, maybe that's a how to do something or an instruction manual for whatever on their website, but the file itself came from Google Drive, so then it is then on a third-party website and would require that website's cookies in order for you to download it.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that's what it is. Previously, it required that website's third-party cookies. Now it doesn't. I think that's what they're saying about how they're phasing it, which would also make sense about why it says if you rely on the download URLs, you need to switch to Drive and Doc's publishing flows. So this must be a new way of doing it, where you switch to this sort of publishing flow and it's not going to need those third-party cookies. So I think this is a good move by Google to increase that security, because I think probably what's happening is where people are serving those cookies on their website, there is the potential that users could be clicking on a link to download something from Google Drive, essentially, without realizing that they're then almost accepting those third-party cookies onto their computer just by downloading the link or just by getting a link. So I think Google are trying to avoid any potential litigation issues here or problems here down the line where people say, oh, hey, look, I was getting this Google Drive file and I didn't know that I was getting these third-party cookies. That would be, it's kind of what I've surmised from this anyway. So hopefully I'm on the right sort of area here. Could you read the Getting Started for anybody who's interested here? And like I say, for anybody who is interested in this or thinks that this applies to them, I think possibly ourselves included, Adam, because I think we have some files that we possibly serve on third-party sites, like the link to this podcast document, for example. So could you go into the Getting Started, because we might need to do this as well.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so for the admins, there is no admin control for this feature. However, but for the end users and developers out there, use an iframe on your website to load the content. You can do this by going to the file in Google Drive and taking the next relevant step. For workspace files, which are Google Docs, Sheets, Slides, and Forms file types, you can use the Google Doc publishing URL of the file. For other files, once opened in Drive, select Open in New Window from the Overflow menu, and then open the Overflow menu and select Embed Item, which will provide the iframe HTML tag.
Okay, so possibly we're going to see a new link, maybe a publishing URL link for these documents and things like that maybe we might need to use when we're publishing this in the future on our podcast description. When is this going to be rolling out? I think it mentioned it earlier, but just to remind everybody.
Okay, so you switch to the Drive and Docs publishing flow by January the 2nd, 2024. So we've got a couple of months to prepare for this. And this update, this impacts all Google Workspace customers as well as users with personal Google accounts.
Okay, that's good to know. The only thing that I would say is Google haven't kind of described here when you're going to see the publishing URL that they described earlier. If it's a Google Docs file, for example, I assume that's kind of live now, but I think even myself, I'm going to have a look at the links here to have a bit more of a look in the help article. Thank you, Adam. What have we got next, please?
Up next, we have an admin update. So, understand the impact of context-aware access policies with monitor mode. Admins can now use monitor mode to understand the implications of a context-aware access policy before deploying it to their end users. Monitor mode will not block end users. Instead, it will show how the policy will block user access over time, which admins can review in the CAA audit logs. Monitor mode is available for Google Workspace and Google Apps and third-party SAML apps. Before assigning context-aware access levels, it's critical for admins to understand the impacts this will have on their end users. Using monitor mode helps admins fully understand the end user impacts before deploying them in active mode, which can help avoid disruptions while helping admins make more informed decisions regarding their security strategies.
Yeah, so we talked in one of our previous podcasts about this context-aware access mode. I remember that, and I remember I was quite excited by the promise of this, that we might see two-factor authentication as context-aware, which is something that Microsoft does very well, where you can basically say, look, if the user is at work, effectively, don't ask them for two-factor authentication. If they're anywhere else, do. So this isn't related to that. This is related to kind of use of apps and various things that you can set up as context-aware. This is great. I mean, we haven't used it. We haven't had the need to use it. But anything, it's like we've said many times before, Adam, as admins ourselves, anything that we see that helps admins out there to forecast, plan what's going to happen when they make these changes and when they make these rollouts is great in my book and very, very useful. And I think you'd probably agree, wouldn't you?
Yes, absolutely. So it's almost a little bit like if you were then to create a test user account and then just see what impacts that would have. But with these apps, with this monitor mode, you can just see what impacts or what the behavior would be for those. So yeah, and as you say, anything that helps the admins out there, then we love to see it.
Yeah, I completely agree. There's some nice graphics here showing a bit of what this looks like as well. So again, for anybody interested, there's some nice graphics in here. And it's kind of things like you can view reports and things like that from the monitor mode. So that's going to be really, really useful. What's the getting started here, please?
Okay, so for the admins out there, you can visit Google's Help Center if you would like to learn more about deploying context-aware access, assigning context-aware access levels to apps, and context-aware access log events. Links to all of that are in our document. For the end users, though, there is no end user action required because this update is for the admins.
Yep, that makes a lot of sense. What's the rollout pace and availability, please?
So, rapid release and scheduled release, full rollout, so 1 to 3 days for feature visibility, started on October the 17th, and this is going to be available to Google Workspace Enterprise Standard, Enterprise Plus, Education Standard, Education Plus, and Cloud Identity Premium customers.
Very nice again to see that they've allowed this on education standard. So for business, right at the top end, which makes a lot of sense that you'd be up around enterprise level, but very nice that they've, as Google always do, we see them very often do, open it to education a bit more so that it's available to education standard and above. Really like to see that for all of our education customers out there. What have we got next, please, Adam?
Up next, Google Chat. So you can now use the space management tool to bulk delete Google Chat spaces. Using this space management tool, admins can now delete multiple spaces within their organization at once. Over time, as more spaces are created, the list of spaces for an organization can become cluttered with abandoned and inactive spaces. Having the ability to delete multiple spaces at once can simplify the effort required by admins to manage spaces for an organisation. For example, admins can sort spaces based on their member count in descending order or based on the last activity in a space. From there, admins can select multiple spaces and delete them with one click. Well, I bet you actually have to do multiple clicks, because you're going to have to click to select the spaces and then click delete. But that's just nitpicking just a little bit. When viewing spaces in your organisation, you'll notice a new column, which is group counts. In this column, admins can see how many groups are members of a specific space.
I think the graphic that they've shown here is really, really nice. The space management tool is fantastic. Again, it's not an area that we've had to really go into very much. I don't know if you've had to go into it for any of the schools, have you, Adam?
No, I haven't. The schools that are using spaces only have a couple, and they've kept them all. So they've not they don't have abundance of redundant spaces that really require this tool just yet.
Yeah, this is really great for admins who are managing those larger organisations, though, because this space management area is lovely to see. And you can see that Google have really thought about what an admin would like to see on this. So for anybody who wants to know what's on the graphic here, you've got kind of the name of the space, the member count, the group count, whether external users can be allowed, and critically for this update, regarding deleting spaces, the last activity event and the date created. And they've done a really good job to put that information in, because that's super useful for admins. Being able to do this, it's a bit of a quality of life update, and it's for admins, our two favourite things, Adam, so no surprise, I really like this update. I think this is going to be fantastic for anybody managing those large organisations with large amounts of spaces.
Absolutely. So I was saying, the schools that I look after only have a couple of spaces, but I can imagine, the reason for that is because it's only the staff that are using those spaces. But I could imagine, especially somewhere like a secondary school or even a university where the students are involved with the spaces, I can imagine many spaces be available. And so then I could 1000% see how this update would be really, really helpful. Also really like the idea that they've added the new column for group counts, because maybe you'd say, oh, this particular space, there's like one member in it, or there's no members and there's only one group that's in there, but maybe that group is something like all staff, or something that turns out to be a massive group. So then at face value, it may look like it's not a very active space, but actually lots and lots of people do have access to it.
Yeah, really good point.
Doesn't necessarily mean that lots of people are using the space, but at least it would be available to lots of people. And this is another one of those updates. I'm almost a little bit surprised that this option wasn't available before, but love to see it.
Yeah, we do see that in the admin console sometimes, where you select multiple things and you think, oh, I'll select multiple things and do something, and then it's kind of surprising that you can't do it. There's a few little things like that where there's those bits missing, but very nice that they've added this in. What's the getting started here, please?
Okay, so for the admins out there, super admins can access the space management tool by default. Other admins will require the Manage Chat and Spaces Conversations privilege to access the tool. If this is your first time using the Space Management tool, then please read more about the Space Management tool, and I've added a lovely link within our document for that. This feature will be available by default in the admin console by going to Apps, Google Workspace, Settings for Google Chat, and then Manage Spaces. And of course, you can always visit Google's Help Center to learn more about deleting one or more spaces in the admin console. And of course, there's a lovely link for that as well. To get started for the end users out there, there is no end user action required. When a space is deleted, the end users will no longer be able to see the space in their chat interface. So this is kind of for the admins out there.
Yeah, no problem. And I'm sure there's a way of like backing up the conversations before you delete it if you need to as well, for anybody who wants to do that. What's the rollout pace and availability, please, Adam?
So, rapid release and scheduled release. There is a gradual rollout for this update, so potentially up to 15 days for feature visibility, which started on October the 17th. And this update is available to Google Workspace Essentials, Business Starter, Business Standard, Business Plus, Frontline, Enterprise Essentials, Enterprise Standard, Enterprise Plus, Education Fundamentals, Education Standard, Teaching and Learning Upgrade, and Education Plus customers.
Okay, so a lot of availability there with that, which makes sense because I think those are the tier levels that space management is available on as well. So that makes a lot of sense. Thank you, Adam. What have we got next, please?
So up next, this update is definitely for me. So you can now subtly enhance your appearance with portrait touch-up when using Google Meet on mobile devices. Oh no, it's not for me because we're not on a mobile device.
You need no such thing, Adam.
So, introducing Portrait Touch-Up in Meet, which is a new feature on mobile that enables you to lightly touch up your appearance from the green room before joining or during the meeting. Whether you have just come back from the gym or recovering from a cold or jet-lagged, Portrait Touch-Up is available to help you feel your best. You can choose from 2 Portrait Touch-Up modes. There's a subtle, which is a very light complexion smoothing, under-eye lightening and eye whitening, or there's smoothing, so you have it subtle or heavy makeup, and the smoothing option is slightly more complexion smoothing, under eye lightening and eye whitening. This update has been highly requested apparently by some users, and Google hopes that by providing the ability to lightly enhance their appearance, they will feel more comfortable and confident with how they appear during video calls. In addition to mobile, Google plans to introduce this feature to Google Meet on the web by the end of 2023, so coming up quite soon. And I expect we'll update everybody on this lovely podcast when that happens.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I reckon the reason that they've done this on mobile first is because the cameras are a bit more predictable on a mobile device. If somebody's joining from an iOS device, they'll know it's an iPhone 12, for example, or whatever. Oh my god, that's a bit out of date, isn't it? An iPhone 14 or 15, whatever the latest one is.
We're on iPhone 20. We're super.
I'm a bit of a dinosaur. I've lost track. So whatever the iPhone is, they'll know that the camera is a certain quality. And I think just inherently as well, mobile phones have much better quality cameras these days, especially iPhones with having Face ID and everything like that. There's a lot more technology going in there. So
on that, sorry, not to go off on a massive tangent, because we don't do that here. On that, you definitely would have thought so. Yes, however. So definitely on the latest iPhone model, the front-facing camera is still only 720. My computer has a native 720 camera as well. So the camera on the back, significantly better, yes. However, if you are in a Google Meet, you're probably going to be using the front camera for that meeting, and the camera is not actually as good as you thought it would be.
I'm quite surprised about that. Is that even on the latest iPhone?
Yes, me too. And to be honest, I've ordered the latest iPhone, and I'm a bit disappointed that it doesn't have a better camera on the front.
Oh god, Google AI is jumping up and down saying the new Google phone has like a 2 million pixel camera or whatever. Yeah, I mean, I think that's probably why they've done it mobile first. This is it's a lovely update. I mean, it's obviously not something that we need, but it's like,
I just woke up like this.
I just woke up looking like this every day. Maybe it's Maybelline. I think that this is useful though for anybody who, like in these scenarios that I've pointed out, quite funny. You gotten back from the gym, you jet lagged. Again, it kind of is why you might be on a mobile device as well. You're running out of the gym and you're going on to a meeting.
Must Google Meet immediately.
Yeah, immediately. I haven't planned my day. So I think that anything like this is nice, and it's using this kind of AI imaging technology and things, I should imagine. And
of course, we've seen quite a lot of AI come into Google Workspace quite recently, so it's very much building on that.
Yeah, I completely agree. And do you know what? If you can put something in that just makes you look a little bit better. It's not even a case of making you look better necessarily. It's just making you look a bit more realistic as to probably what you actually do look like. I mean, if you're in a poor lighting conditions or something like that, then it isn't necessarily a true representation of what you really actually look like. It's like my lighting at the moment is dreadful and has been dreadful for a while. So it's not necessarily a true representation of what you're actually like. So anything like this that kind of tweaks you a little bit, I think is potentially quite useful.
Yes, absolutely. So yeah, definitely things that tweaks the lighting just to enhance that and just make it generally a little bit more aesthetically pleasing for everybody. more than happy with that, then I think that's great. As if it starts changing your physical appearance and plucking your eyebrows for you and things like this, then I'm less keen on that. Like, it can be a bit of fun to take a fun picture for Instagram or for whatever you're wanting to use it for. But if you always have a filter on your face, then you'll never remember what you actually look like. So it kind of gets into realms of things I'm not a big fan of that, because as I say, it's a bit of fun, but then you don't want people to think you actually look one way when actually you're something else. You don't just want to catfish everyone on Google Meet, basically. So if subtle tweaks just to make everything a little bit lighter and things, then that's great. But you don't need to pluck your eyebrows for you.
Are you saying, Adam, that if you're going into an important client meeting, don't apply the filter that's the hamburger hat from Elden Ring or something like that? You know?
Yes. And then if you have a face-to-face meeting, make sure you have a hamburger hat.
Make sure you got the hamburger hat.
Because otherwise nobody will recognise you.
Stick it on, yeah. You'll certainly stand out in the crowd, that's for sure. This is nice, and I agree with what you said, Adam. You know, altering your appearance too much is just, I don't think, appropriate.
It's a bit of a rabbit hole.
Yeah, it is. Digital rabbit hole, definitely, for sure.
Insert digital Botox.
And just like it can be in real life, it makes you look a bit artificial. Do you know what I mean? It's like, it just...
I think if you can tell that the filter is on, then it's not good.
Do you know what?
So
I think that's a really good rule.
If it says that it's subtle and it actually is subtle, as in nobody can actually tell, then great. I think that's going to be spot on. But if somebody even questions, are those your real eyebrows? then I'm just fixating on eyebrows.
I was going to say, so much focus on the eyebrows. It's like...
But if it's actually subtle, then I think that should be good.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, actually, Adam. If you can't tell that it's on, then it's doing its job very well. What's the getting started for this, please?
Okay, so for the admins out there, there is no admin impact or action required, so easy life for the admins out there. But for the end users, this feature will be off by default, but it can be enabled by the user. You can visit Google's Help Center if you'd like to learn more about turning Portrait Touch-Up on or off for your account.
Okay, and this is slightly unusual. I don't know if this has ended up in this location for any particular reason, but the graphic is kind of in the rollout pace. Is that because we're going to be seeing it slightly differently, or does that just need to go up a little bit?
It's where Google put it.
It's where Google put it. Okay, fair enough. So
that's my excuse, and I'm sticking to
it. So for all our listeners, there is a moving graphic here showing you what it looks like in the settings. Very, very easy. You go into the settings, there's a portrait touch-up part, and there's 3 buttons that you can click, one with a line through it where it's off, it's a no face for you, one that's just a face, and then one that's got a face with a little plus next to it, so that's like super touch-up.
No, it's a sparkle. It's a shine. It's like
it?
A little star to say that you're looking your best.
Like you've just rubbed petrol over
allegedly.
Allegedly, yeah.
Notice that this lovely moving graphic is from an Android device. It's almost as if they favour them.
Almost as if they favour them. Yeah, how dare they?
Almost.
Thank you, Adam. What's the rollout pace here?
Okay, so rapid release. There is a gradual rollout for this update, which started on October the 18th. Scheduled releases, there is an extended rollout, so potentially longer than 15 days for feature visibility, which is starting on October the 28th. And this update is going to be available to Business Standard, Business Plus, Enterprise Essentials, Enterprise Starter, Enterprise Standard, Enterprise Plus, Education Plus, Teaching and Learning Upgrade, Google One, and Google Workspace Individual. This is not going to be available to personal Google accounts. So that's a bit interesting. I don't know off the top of my head. Are those the same tiers that have access to all the other AI-ness?
AI-ness, I like that. I think it probably is. I mean, business standard and up is certainly where you start to see Google Meet recording, Q&A, poll, breakout rooms, polling, all of those sorts of things. And the same with education as well. Up at Education Plus, you sort of see...
Actually, I kind of like that it's not really there for education. Okay, yeah, it is for Education Plus, but I kind of actually like that it's not just available for absolutely everybody.
Yeah. It's in line with those other Google Meet features that we see, so that makes a lot of sense. Thank you, Adam. What have we got last, please?
So up next, this is a bit more of a general workspace update. So you can now map and sync system attributes of users from external directory into Google Workspace. So using directory sync, admins can map all the system or default user attributes, including custom attributes from Microsoft Active Directory or Microsoft Azure Active Directory to Google Directory user attributes and synchronize them as well. These attributes include first and last name, job title, company, and department. The detailed list of attributes support can be found in Google's Help Center, and I've added a lovely link in our document for that. Based on these attribute values, Directory Sync will automatically map the users with the attributes provided from the Active Directory or Azure Active Directory on the Google Workspace side. Directory Sync is available as an open beta, meaning no sign-up is required. And of course, you can use Google's Help Center if you'd like to learn more about using Directory Sync and FAQs.
That's very good.
Links
to
in
hear.
the document.
Yeah, thank you. That's very good to hear. We've talked about directory sync before and how it's super useful. If you've already got those Microsoft Azure directories already set up, you can kind of bring that straight into Google Workspace. And this is a real enhancement. Again, another admin quality of life update. So we both love it. It's allowing you to map those attributes because Google isn't always going to know, right? Like the examples that I've given here are very good, where you've got kind of a cost center, but it's put it under something a little bit weird. It's given it a bit of a quirky name. And we know Microsoft love to do weird, quirky things that don't make any sense whatsoever to any logical person in the universe. So not that I'm bitter or anything. So having these mapping abilities to be able to go, map this absolute gobbledygook that Microsoft has created to something that makes sense is golden, is absolutely fantastic. And I think that is very, very useful for admins out there who need to do this sort of thing. I really, really like this.
Absolutely, and as we kind of, it's more of a general theme that we just like to mention all the time, really. Anything that makes life easy for admins, we love to see because we are admins ourselves. And so, things like this, which just generally help everyone, because anything that makes life easier for your admins, in turn, will make things easier for the users as well. So obviously, this is syncing everything, your Active Directory to Google. If that's nice and easy for the admins out there, then the users will get their logins and things nice and easily as well. So it's definitely a win-win. So love to see it.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I mean, the more tools we have as admins, the more customization we have, the more we can meet those user expectations and user requirements in whatever flavour they take. So yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, Adam. What's the getting started here, please?
Okay, so for the admins out there, to use the directory sync, go to the Google Admin Console, then Home, Directory Sync. And of course, you can visit Google's Help Center if you'd like to learn more about setting up a user sync. And I've added a lovely link in our document for that. And as mentioned, this update is definitely for the admins out there. It's actually been quite a bit of an admin-heavy episode this week. So there's nothing for the end users. This is for the admins.
Yep, that makes perfect sense. And what's the rollout pace and availability, please?
Okay, so this feature is available right now for all users. Love to see it. And is going to be available to all Google Workspace customers. Love to see it.
Yeah, fantastic. As we've said before, there's a bit of a caveat with that because obviously it's people who have access to the admin console, so not like personal accounts or anything like that. Google
Yes.
always kind of forget that a little bit. But yeah, anybody who's got Google Workspace and on an admin tier will be able to access that, so that's great. Well, thank you.
And of course, you'd need Active Directory as well. So, if you happen to use your personal Active Directory, then go nuts.
Yeah. Apart from those two caveats, it's available to everybody, right? Oh, thank you as always, Adam, for going through all of that. And that's it, everybody. That's everything that you need to know about all of the updates that are happening in the world of Google Workspace. Remember that this podcast is available in audio format from wherever you cast your pods and also in video format on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/strawberry7. Thank you so much for joining us this week.
And we'll be back very soon with more updates.
Goodbye.
Bye!